Warning, the Stone Age Gamer includes a lot of bad language. Cover your mother ears.
Good evening and welcome to the Stone Age Gamer Podcast. I am Kris Randazzo and joining me tonight is Catchy Jingle, Dan Ryan.
The catchiest of jingles.
We're kicking off a new monthly segment this evening called the Stone Age Starter Guide. What does that mean? You'll have to listen to find out. Ignore all sense of quality control because the Stone Age Gamer Podcast starts now. Those are Atari jokes.
Those are Atari jokes. Have you played Atari today? That's right.
Hi, everyone. This is episode 353, and it's the week of April 8th, 2021. How you doing, Dan?
I am all right, Kris. I am drinking a very interesting beer right now. It's called Strawberry Floofer. It's a strawberry peanut butter beer. Because that's the point we're at now. I don't even know what beer is anymore. It's quite delicious. But, yeah, man, I'm all right. You know, things are things. It's the happy Easter to everyone who celebrates Easter.
Yeah, and even those who don't. I'm glad you had a good day.
Yeah.
If you didn't have a good day, I'm very sorry to hear that.
No, I'm happy about that. Oh, man, it was a fucking long week last week, man. So we painted the house and did all that shit, and we talked about that on the podcast. And then, like, the plan was to do a bunch of yard work and landscaping, but I put my order in at Home Depot, and they were like, all right, because I took I took days off of work to do this. I put my order in at Home Depot, and they said the latest it's going to be delivered to your driveway. Like, I think my total order was like $1,100 or something like that of like stone and soil and rocks and gravel and pavers and all types of shit that I was going to do. And they were like, all right, we got you. The latest it's going to be there is Wednesday by like 6 o'clock at night. And I was like, all right, cool. I'll take 3 days off of work. I'll take Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off of work. Right? We're good. And I'll do it then. Back to work, you know, I can work over the week and, you know, work on Saturday and Sunday's Easter. So we can't do that, but 4 days should be enough time to get all this done. So then about Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, I asked my wife, I was like, hey, wife, we got an email about the updated arrival time of this giant project that I don't want to do, but secretly want to do, kind of. That's really going to hurt me, but whatever. Do we know when that's getting here? And she was like, I don't know. Let me go check. And we got an email update from Home Depot late that evening that said your order is going to be delivered on Saturday. And I was like, well, that's not enough fucking time at all. Because, you know, Sunday's Easter, and I took the time off this week. So fuck you, Home Depot. I'm going to cancel my order. So I canceled the whole thing and then went and helped my sister-in-law move instead, which is way worse. Way worse, Kris. Because they have a lot of money. So they buy heavy furniture. It's not like IKEA furniture like I buy. This is like made out of wood. Not pressboard. Fucking suck. My knees still hurt. They still hurt from doing that shit. My knees hurt just
thinking about it.
Oh my God.
He's still injured, so it always hurts. But
well, I mean, I think mine are just kind of always bad now. Like, it's just kind of my life now. Like my family has a history of like people needing joint replacements and whatnot, and I was not very careful with my body as a young man. I just kind of threw my body at the world and hoped for the best with a lot of things. You know, I was like, oh, I'm going to jump off this roof and it'll be fine. Not worried about that. And, you know, we'll skateboard here and do this here and break my ankle and fucking tear shit in my knees playing soccer and whatever. So whatever. It's just always pain now. So it was a long fucking week. But Godzilla vs. Kong came out and that was incredible. The movie was great, Kris.
Well, I don't know that I would say the movie was great.
It's great.
That last chunk of the movie was great.
Did you watch it?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, Karen and I watched it the other night, and
it's awesome.
I mean, sure. Look. We were very happy with our watch. We enjoyed that movie, but I can't say that it was great. Those parts where they were those parts where they were fighting were amazing. Were so good. I have so many questions. Like,
yeah, they didn't do a good job with the whole plot there,
but they didn't need to.
No, it was doesn't
just
matter.
Like, I just go away, fight, monkey fight lizard, do it. That's what I want to see. And boy, did they nail that.
They really
shit.
did. They really
God,
did.
It was so cool. See, we watched it because we were like, all right, we have got to see if John can handle this movie, because he would love this shit. And where we got to the point where they were in the underground Coliseum.
Yeah, in the Hollow Earth
that someone built.
Yeah. There's, ancient people. Ancient Kongs built it, man. Don't fucking question it.
Yeah. No question. I don't need to know. That's fine. But we got around there, and like those bat monsters were like floating around, and then started ripping them in half. It's like John's not gonna be okay with this. Like, he's gonna think everything with the people is boring, because it was. And then, like, this is going to be a little too scary for him. And then we got to the last, like, the first water fight was pretty cool. But then we got to, like, the last whole Mechagodzilla craziness at the end. And we're like, we don't need to show him the movie. We just start here.
Yeah, just watch this.
Here's the movie. Because, like, what else was there? Why why are they fighting? Who the fuck cares?
So fucking good.
That was so much fun. We're just cracking up and really enjoying, and like the what's her face, the stupid pretty girl that served no purpose other than to be blown up. That was great.
Yeah,
I the whole time I'm like, boy, I hope they give her some sort of purpose at some point, because right now I just hate her. I just hate all the time. And then she blew up, and that was wonderful.
She was holding the idiot ball.
Yeah, there didn't need to be one. There didn't need to be much of anything, really. Like,
no, it was fucking awesome.
Dad, I'm in Hong Kong. How? I got on a thing that was somewhere, and then it was somewhere else.
Maglev trains, baby. It's awesome.
We got spaceships that don't go into space, and like the world's hollow, but there's like a gravity thing, and it's like, fuck it. He's got an axe made out of a Godzilla thing, I think. Who cares?
Yeah.
Beat him up. It's an axe.
Make sure you charge it first, though. Make sure you absorb his atomic breath as you fucking take it to swing it. Oh my God, it was so great. It was so great.
I call somewhat bullshit on how badly Godzilla was getting his ass kicked by Mechagodzilla.
It was bad.
Like,
but it's not Mechagodzilla. It's, man, we are super into spoiler territory. Sorry, everybody. Which, fuck it, by the way, I was walking around Target, and they had the new wave of Godzilla toys out, and there's a fucking Mechagodzilla, and I saw that before I saw the movie, and I was mad. I was fucking mad.
See, we had the opposite effect, because
I knew it was coming.
We saw something that said Mechagodzilla was in there. We're like, all right, now we have to watch this to see if John can watch it, because now it's not just Godzilla and Kong, but there's a giant fucking robot Godzilla in there. We've got to see this.
But it wasn't Mechagodzilla kicking Godzilla's ass. It was Mechagodzilla being controlled by the fucking reanimated skull of King Ghidorah.
Oh, right.
Kicking his ass.
That's right. I forgot that.
Because that's how it was powered. It wasn't just a robot.
It was powered.
It was King Ghidorah.
Right. Got it. Okay. That makes more sense. I forgot about the fact that I forgot about the fact that the robot was the reanimated corpse of Ghidorah. So here's my question. I have never seen Godzilla King of the Monsters, or Kong. How much I enjoyed this movie. Should I go back and watch the other ones?
Man, I would say, as much as it breaks my heart to say it, I would say that you should probably, you would definitely be safe and almost probably should skip the 2014 Godzilla with Bryan Cranston and Kick-Ass in it. I loved it, but there's just not a lot in there that is super relevant to this one. But King of the Monsters...
Well, I'm not concerned with being relevant.
I mean, like, I think it's the worst out of the 4 MonsterVerse movies that they've done. Okay. Not that it's bad, but it is kind of boring. Godzilla's in it for like 7 minutes. It's a lot more people heavy than I feel like it needed to be, because it's fucking got just monster break. That's what I want to see. But Kong of Skull Island and King of the Monsters were outstanding. King of the Monsters especially. The shit with Mothra and Ghidorah and Rodan, fucking super cool. Super cool. And then after you watch those, there's additional shit that you'll be pissed about in Godzilla vs. Kong, where it's like, hey, fucking retcon that for no reason, you pricks. My favorite part of watching that movie is we're sitting there, and like right in the first 10 minutes or so, they go to that cybernetics company, to Apex. And we're just kind of looking at it, and the girls couldn't really make out what it said, and they were like, Dad, what does it say? It was like, oh, Apex Laboratories, it's a cybernetics company. And Penny turns to Katie on the couch, and she goes, cybernetics? Robo Kaiju, Robo Kaiju, Robo. And they both just sat there chanting Robo Kaiju, and it was awesome. And they were like, that means there's going to be fucking Mecha Godzilla, or maybe Mecha King Ghidorah. I don't know. Maybe they would save that for the next one. Like, they were just going off and off. It was great. Loved it.
Meanwhile,
I loved it to pieces, man.
As soon as we saw that eyeball, I was like, is that Wheatley? Because that thing looked like Wheatley. Like, exactly. It's like, I'm in space.
It was
a good time.
Absolutely everything I wanted it to be.
That was big fat thumbs up. I can't in good conscience call it good because everything that wasn't the kaiju was just like, what am I watching?
I don't know, the stuff with the little girl in Kong I thought was pretty good.
I mean, that was okay.
That stuff was pretty well done.
That was okay. I mean,
there's a lot more world building.
We're gonna put him on a boat, all right?
Yeah.
But Godzilla's gonna find him, right? That's cool. We're just gonna take our chance, okay? Well, Godzilla found him. A lot of people died. You know what we should do? Use helicopters. Why couldn't you have done that the first time?
Because then Godzilla wouldn't have found him, Chris.
Because that's exactly the conversation we had. Karen was like, as soon as the helicopter showed, I was like, well, why didn't you do it in the first place? I said, because then we wouldn't have gotten the water fight.
And the water fight was cool. You need an excuse for the monkey and the lizard to punch each other.
And then like we got to the monkey and the lizard punching each other, and then we got to the monkey and the lizard like teaming up to beat up the robot. And I was like, this is simultaneously better, more well thought out, and more plausible than Batman v Superman.
Yeah, really was. I made it about halfway so far through Justice League.
What, Snyder Cut or
Snyder Cut? Yeah. It is definitely a movie that Zack Snyder worked on that is marginally, from what I can tell, and like I said, I'm not all the way through it just because it's still just not grabbing me. I really wanted to give it a fair shake, and I watched like the first 2 parts, whatever. I got like 2 hours into it, and I was like, I mean, this is better than Justice League, but that's not saying much. You know,
that's not a high bar.
It really wasn't. Like, there was some really cool stuff in there. I liked seeing the Green Lantern in there in the beginning, like, or closer to the beginning of the movie. I don't know, 2/3 of the way in, 1/4. I don't fucking know.
Time has no meaning anymore.
It really doesn't. Like, that was pretty cool though. I still hate the way Steppenwolf looks. It's just not cool.
Never stops moving.
No.
Never.
just I get what they were going.
Still, little twitchy things going. Ding, 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 ding,
But
ding,
like,
ding, ding.
I saw that trick when they did it with the fucking Destroyer in the second Thor movie, or in the first Thor movie. Yeah, that was fucking cool. Because you don't have to do it all the time. You're doing the fucking dice thing too much. Like, you can't do that, man. Like, I don't know. Dark Side. I don't know.
Nope.
I don't know.
Have you been playing any video games, Dan? I don't want to get angry again.
Not a ton of stuff. I mean, I started a new franchise in the show. Where I took over a shitty team and did like a fantasy draft and made, I was looking through a bunch of like the logos and stuff that users had submitted. Some really talented motherfuckers out there uploading shit to the logo vault and whatever. But I found some stuff for the New Jersey Knights. I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to do that. So I've been playing a bunch of that. I'm really excited for the new one because in the PS5 version of the show 21, there will be a stadium creator as well. So Tiff is going to build a ridiculous ballpark for me to bring my my custom team into. So I'm pretty excited about that. I played more Avengers, still super fun. I still really like, going through and just being the different characters. It's very cool. I'm not trying to rush through it though. You know what I mean? Because I know there's so much content still coming for it. I've done like a bit more of the story and go back and replay some of the other missions. And like, man, I kind of struggled with Hulk on this one. I wonder if, Miss Marvel would have been better, if Kamala Khan would have been better. So jump in and try it with her, or try it with Iron Man or whatever. It's fucking Thor. Like I don't know. I enjoy it. I can totally see how it's not for everybody. But I've definitely been liking it. They put out the PS5 update for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. And that is really nice. Really, really nice. And it also has the updated thing. We talked about it a few months ago. One of the listeners, I forget who, mentioned it on the Discord, and then I went and downloaded that update too, where you can go through and play the career mode like as each character like you could back in the original, which was absent when the game first came out. Like, you beat it once and that was like, okay, cool, I guess I won't do all the challenges with everybody again. So like that was nice, and it runs so much smoother, it looks so much better. The control is a little bit tighter, like the haptic feedback and shit is just really cool. Like, they did such a good job with that. I'm really, really hoping that there is a Tony Hawk's, 3 and 4, which would just be fucking awesome. I would love to see that. And I finally broke down and bought the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection because it was on sale for like $8 or something like that on the PlayStation Store.
Yeah, I can't say no to that. It's a lot of good
really
Street
can't.
Fighter.
I really can't. Even just for like the documentary bits and like the behind the scenes stuff, all the design documents, that was worth the $8 to me. But jumping in, I got my ass handed to me in a couple online matches because I've just not. I used to be really, really good at Third Strike, and I am not as good at Third Strike anymore. And also I couldn't find matches super easy. There weren't a ton of people still playing it, but the fact that it's there is still really cool. And it's just a really nicely done collection. Like, there's a lot of extras. I love the fact that they included the original Street Fighter, even though it is just the hottest of garbage. Like, that game, dude, that game sucks. It's bad.
Which one?
Street Fighter.
Oh god, Street Fighter 1. Sorry, I got a little lost there. Yes, Street Fighter 1 is not a good game. No,
it's awful. It is just, going back, I obviously I knew it was bad. I played it in the arcades and it was bad then. But like, with hindsight and all of the fighting games that I've played since, because I probably haven't played that game in 20 years, the game is awful.
It seems even worse somehow. There's
really does.
I'm still glad it's there because it is such a fascinating curiosity.
And
it's got a lot of great character, like the voiceovers and stuff are just
It's what I really appreciate, and this might sound a little weird. What I really appreciate is that in the arcade, in the original version of Street Fighter, it was nigh impossible to throw a fireball, do a Shoryuken, a hurricane kick, whatever. They did not improve the controls at all for this release. It is still nigh impossible to do any of those things.
Yeah, it does not feel responsive.
At all. And I appreciate that. I like that fact. I don't know. Other than that, Puzzle and Dragons, watched a bunch of movies, and I went on a little bit with my time off. I tried to do a little toy hunting, and God, it is fucking sad out there, Chris. It's a sick, sad world. It's just row after row with just nothing. Just empty pegs. I mean, I did find 2 more hand ninjas, so Stiltman is really tall right now. He could be taller, but I do like him. But I went out looking for NECA released 3 of the Defenders of the Earth line, the Flash Gordon, Ming the Merciless, and the Phantom. And we've talked about my love of Dick Tracy on the show before. And my love of Dick Tracy extends to like those other, like 40s, 50s pulp hero things. I love the Phantom. Love the Phantom. The Ghost Who Walks. What a cool fucking name. Love that. I even love the Billy Zane movie. I don't care. It's fucking terrible, but I love it because it was a Phantom movie. But like Shadow and the Spider, the Master of Men, like it was just, I love all that shit. So I was like, man, I really want this fucking Phantom figure. And I cannot find it anywhere. Just cannot. And it's $30. It's a ridiculous price to pay for a 7-inch action figure. It's $30, but I'm willing to do it. I want to give them my money, but every store, the only thing I've seen, like I hit every Walmart and Target and GameStop and every place that I thought that carries NECA figures whatsoever, looking for the Phantom, and I saw one Ming the Merciless. And I was like, God damn, man, this sucks. And a bunch of empty shelves, everything else. Oh, well. If anybody sees a Phantom, shoot me a message. I'll send you money. I really want it.
I'll keep my eyes peeled.
Keep an eye out. He's purple. If you don't know what he looks like. That's the other thing, too. Like, who the fuck is buying up all the Phantoms? Like, who else cares?
I don't know. There's probably like 6 or 7 people like you, and there's probably only like 10 of those figures out there.
Yeah, well, this is what I'm saying. Where are the other 4?
People buying more than one. Gotta have one to open and one to keep in the box.
Fucking hate that shit. Somebody posted a picture on one of the New Jersey subreddits on Reddit, obviously, of a line of scalpers lined up outside of a Target waiting for the sports card and Pokemon card supplier. There's probably like 30 dudes deep. It was like 8 o'clock in the morning. They were just waiting outside like vultures. It was gross.
So terrible.
It was gross. It was so gross. I hated it.
All right, let's see.
Anyway, what have you been up to?
Let's see. Speaking of things that I hate, I as the game is going on, I am hating the camera in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 so goddamn much.
Oh, that sucks, man.
I mean, the game's still super fun.
Sure.
We keep getting to these points where I have to go to the main menu, and we just have to drop all the players except for me, because
yeah,
just to get through like certain parts. Like there was this, we're in Wakanda, and there are these like snipers that you can't physically get to because the fourth person, the computer player, is just hanging all the way back, and he's not doing anything, and the computer player is where the camera is focused.
That's fucking like, that's a weird choice
on the computer player, and then the computer player dies, and then it stays focused on his corpse. And so we can't progress until we beat all of the bad guys, because that's the only time where I'll start teleporting his corpse to wherever we are. And we can't get anywhere near these snipers that can kill you in 2 hits. And there's like 13 of them all over the screen. So it's like, you got to take out the snipers first, So I'll just drop all the other players, and then when it's one player, the camera's always focused on me. So like we'll get to these spots where I have to just drop the other players real quick, take out the bad guys, or get through this like part where we're trying to dodge a giant death laser, and then bring everybody else back in. So we're still having a good time. It's just, man, the camera is so poorly thought out in this game. I don't get it.
It really is one of those inexcusable things. Like, we put a man on the moon. This isn't hard to figure out.
And like this game doesn't have complicated camera angles. It's Marvel Ultimate Alliance. Just keep the action focused where it needs to be, and it's heartbreaking because like it's so stupid and so fun, and we're just having a ball playing it. But man, oh man, we just get to these spots where the camera is the game itself is killing us, not because it's hard, but because the camera is freaking broken.
That fucking sucks, man.
Yeah, it does. Still recommend it. If you're looking for this kind of fun, definitely recommend it. And, I'm sure a part of it, if you have 4 players, then you can always be like, all right, everyone go this way. And then, that problem's solved. But if you don't have control over one of those players, then, anyway, better news. Finished Metroid Prime.
Nice.
Game is a freaking masterpiece. Top to bottom. I just love it. I just love that game. It's so well done. The battle against Metroid Prime was awesome. I, didn't 100% everything because I didn't want to put that kind of time in. So I just YouTubed the secret ending to show John that Metroid Prime is Dark Samus, because he thinks Dark Samus is totally cool in Smash Brothers and like my amiibo, but he doesn't know who Dark Samus is.
Right.
Now he does, and that's awesome. So he's like really excited to start Metroid Prime 2, but he was also insistent that we play all of them. So we started the next chronological release of Metroid, which was Metroid Prime Hunters. I have not beaten Metroid Prime Hunters. In fact, I've barely played Metroid Prime Hunters. After playing it for a little while this morning, I remembered how far I got, which was I beat the first other hunter in the first level, and then there was an escape sequence. And since there's no real map, I couldn't figure out how to get out. And then I got a game over and I stopped playing it. And that's as far as I got in Metroid Prime Hunters the first time. So now I'm playing it on the Wii U. I bought it on the virtual console because it's easier to play these things on the television with John. Yeah. So I set it up so that the top screen is displaying on the TV and the bottom screen is displaying on the Wii U gamepad. And I have to say I really like it.
Really?
And I'm genuinely surprised because I never thought much of this game. Like,
it's kind of like a joke afterthought.
Yeah, but it's kind of not, which is neat. First off, playing it on the TV is interesting because it looks like a PlayStation 1 game. And it controls pretty well given the limitations of the hardware, like the limitations of the DS. There's one obnoxious bit is that you can't remap the buttons in the DS Virtual Console. So the firing button is not on the actual trigger. It's on the L button instead of the L trigger.
Oh, that
sucks. Which makes it it's not terrible, but I had to stop playing because my hand hurt from just doing all of this. But it's a pretty functional first-person shooter. It's really not Metroid-y at all. There's no real exploration going on in this. It's very much just like, here's a linear level, shoot a bunch of stuff, and then fight this guy, and then fight a boss, collect a thing, and then get out of there before everything blows up. And it was really fun. Like, it just clicked with me this time. Like, it's not amazing.
Sure.
It is somewhat amazing because this is a friggin' DS game and it's a distinctly functional first person shooter. Like, it's pretty good. Yeah, it's neat. And John thinks all the other hunter characters are super cool. The FMV sequences look like PS1 or Sega Saturn FMV sequences. So it's like playing an ugly ass PlayStation game, but it's especially considering what it is, like that this was a functional first-person shooter. Like the whole aiming thing is pretty cool. Like using the stylus to aim, it really does kind of work. Just similar to the way it does in Kid Icarus Uprising, but it also shares that same problem where you're supporting the weight of the system and you pressing on the screen with the one hand.
Right.
So prolonged play is eventually going to start hurting your wrist.
Did you see the
Metroid Prime 2D remake?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of that.
That looks
cool.
nuts.
Yeah, that looks pretty awesome.
I'm pretty into that.
Bully for them, putting that together. That's pretty awesome. Can't wait for Nintendo to shut that one down.
Yeah, I hope they let it happen.
Yeah, like I hope they do something similar to AM2R because like it's everywhere on social media. There's no way Nintendo hasn't found out about it like that.
No,
it's like,
they 100% know.
You got to keep this quiet. They're gonna find this.
Yeah,
and I want to see this through to conclusion, but no, man. Hunters on the Wii U. I was not really looking forward to this one. I really just wanted to get into Prime 2. And I'm now really happy about that. That's pretty great.
Well, that's really awesome.
Big thumbs up. And it looks like I don't think the game's very long, which is good because I've already beaten like 3 of the hunters. I'm sure they're going to show up again, but it seems like we're going to blast through this game relatively quickly, so it's not going to overstay its welcome, and that's good. But it's a neat little thing, a neat little piece of lore, and yeah, I'm surprisingly happy with it. So,
well, all right then.
I booted up because I finally opened the copy that I got of the last Bubsy game I needed, Paws on Fire for Switch, and it's not great.
I mean, is that a surprise?
Well, it is a little bit of a surprise because I played a little bit of this on PS4 back when I got it ages ago. It's not a demanding game.
Sure.
And yet, the Switch version is choppy as hell.
Really?
And that's the problem, because I was like, you know what? I kind of liked this on PS4, and I feel like, on the Switch, I can kind of take it back in small chunks. So I'll give this a whirl. I'll see how far I get into it, because it is still a Choice Provisions, effectively a runner game dressed up in an obnoxious Bubsy coat of paint.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not going to do this. Like the first level, I'm trying to jump around and it's all like choppy as hell. The frame rate's dropping terribly low. I'm like, but why? There's nothing impressive happening on the screen right now.
Yeah.
This isn't a Switch limitation. The Switch handled Runner 3 just fine, and Runner 3 from the same developer looks way more impressive than this. So what's going on?
That's super weird.
Yeah, I'm mystified by it. It's pretty unfortunate. But on the other side of the spectrum, the last batch of Nintendo Switch Online games that came out was pretty barrel scrapey.
Yeah,
it's
a nice way of putting it.
Except for Fire and Ice for NES, which I maintained was like, no, you got to play this. This was a late NES game. It's a sequel to Solomon's Key. And I've played a little bit of it, and I thought it was really cool. And it's one of those super expensive late NES games that you just can't find. So just on a whim, I had a few minutes to myself, and I decided to boot it up. And it's great. It is exactly as great as I thought it was. It's a really fun pick up, do a couple of levels, then come back another time kind of a game. It animates gorgeously, especially considering it's an NES game. It's a late NES game. It's everything that it sounds like. So Fire and Ice on your Nintendo Switch Online service. Don't blow that off. It's a solid experience. Really is well worth not ignoring.
That sounds like the most backhanded of backhanded compliments.
I mean, most
it
of the
is
other
worth
stuff
not ignoring.
They have dropped some not so great stuff on there, but then you get weird stuff like Scat and like. Yeah, play that game. It's
Scat is weird.
Scat is weird, but it's
again
pretty cool.
Not kink shaming. But...
No, you do you. But there is some these weird games they keep putting on there, like Eliminator Boat Duel. Like play them. They don't dedicate hours of your life to them, but they're neat little experiences, and you're
check them out
for free. Yeah, check them out. But Fire and Ice is great. That's a really fun block pushy puzzle type thing, and very unique. I like it quite a bit. Well, that's all I got, and I think we should take ourselves a break so that when we come back, we will do our first Stone Age starter guide. You're listening to the Stone Age Gamer podcast from Geekade.com. Stick around. And now, here's a quick look at some of the other original content available now from our partners and Geekade.com.
First up, April Fool's Day happened, Kris.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's funny?
Yeah.
Misleading YouTube video titles. So funny. You know what else is funny? Do you? Do you have any idea? Any clue? Any guesses?
No, I need you to tell me.
Bubsy.
Oh my
Super
goodness.
funny. I don't know how you missed that. You were literally just talking about it. I think you were, because I hear "buh" come out of somebody's mouth and I immediately tune out. It's just the thing about me. So Kris, the comedic genius that you are, decided to play an April Fool's Day joke by making a video about his complete U.S. Bubsy collection and calling it the Tommy Tallarico most important game collection ever. Really, it's a very Tallarico-esque line. It works because it's April. He spent money on all this stuff, which does qualify him as an asshole. As a fool. Sorry, it says fool here. I thought asshole. Very sorry. So if you want to know what all the U.S. released Bubsy games look like in one place, head on over to the Stone Age Gamer YouTube channel and watch Stone Age Gaming Complete U.S. Bubsy Collection.
The word complete is in quotation marks because...
It is.
I mean, I'm missing like an instruction manual here. My Bubsy 2 for Game Boy box is a reproduction because I'm not spending hundreds of dollars on a box for Bubsy 2 for Game Boy.
Look, you dick. That is complete as far as anyone else is concerned.
It's complete enough for me.
That is complete enough for fucking anybody. Pretty good for a girl. It's fucking complete enough for Rambo, Kris. That's how complete that shit is.
Next, for the Super Mario 35th anniversary last year, I decided to do 3 new Waveback Overplay playlists over the course of a couple of months that were all Mario themed. Over a year later, I finally finished it because I just so happened to be really good at procrastinating. This year, I've decided to go in the opposite direction and celebrate the Metroid anniversary early, mostly because I've been playing Metroid games and it sounded like fun. And wouldn't you know it, it was fun! I mashed up the soundtracks from the original Metroid for NES and the spectacular Metroid Zero mission for Game Boy Advance. The results were pretty wild. Check out Waveback Overplay Metroid Zero Mission on the Waveback Overplay YouTube channel. New episodes all this week. Of course, by the time you hear this, all the episodes will be out. So, yeah.
This wibbly, wobbly, timey-wimey bullshit right here.
If you can somehow hear this when it's being recorded, there will be new episodes every day this week.
Are you fucking listening? Hello? I hear you. It's just a faint tss in the background. I know that's you. Whatever, it's very sexy. Finally, on an all-new, all-special edition of the Mutant Musings Evolution podcast, Jonathan and Patty had the distinct pleasure of sitting down to chat with Jordan D. White, the current editor for X-Men comics at Marvel. The fucking guy, Kris. They talked to him. They talked to him for a while, presumably about X-Men stuff. I mean, if they're anything like us, they asked him about bread, like just a bunch of weird shit. Had nothing to do with the X-Men. The thing is, as of this time, the time of this recording currently that you are listening to 4 days in the future, which is 4 days in our past. In fact, it hasn't even been edited yet. In point of fact, we found out about the interview this very morning. I found out about it literally just right now. Who knows what they discussed? Certainly not me. But what I do know is that you, yes, you, the listener, should listen to the Mutant Musings Evolution episode 6.1 interview with Jordan D. White.
For all this great content and more from us and our partners, be sure to keep your eyes on Geekade.com. right, we're back. So Dan had this great idea of coming up with some Stone Age starter kits. Basically, let's say you got a game system and $100 to spend on games for it. Not controllers, not weird accessories, just games. Assuming you have the accessories necessary for said games, $100 to spend.
That's right.
And so we decided that this was a great idea, and we're going to do it for 2 years.
And every week we are going to give a lucky listener a video game system and $100, right? That's what we're doing every week. We do this every month.
We are definitely not going to do that. But,
okay.
On
sorry, I tried, guys. Kris is a fucking miserly bitch.
Yeah, I'm hoarding all that money I don't have.
You have the systems. You got an extra Atari 26. You have an extra Atari 2600 you could send somebody. Just saying.
I don't have an extra $100 I can send somebody.
Well, no, but you know. Don't
you stop giving away my shit.
You don't need it. Trying to help you, Karen and I we've had discussions about the amount of 2600s you have.
It's a 2600 intervention.
That's right. We're going to send 14 listeners a 32X, and Kris will still have 78. It's goddamn ridiculous.
I'm so sad that well dried up. I really wanted to build a throne on a 32X.
Stone Age starter kits. We'll get to that one.
So we're going once a month, first week of the month, first-ish. I mean, technically this first week of April. Whatever.
First-esque.
We are going to do a different Stone Age starter kit for a different gaming platform, going oldest to quote-unquote newest. And we're going to do this. We came up with 24 of them because we're awesome. So we're starting off with what we considered the beginning, and we're starting off with Atari 2600 this week. So you've just received an Atari 2600. You got controllers, you got paddles, you got whatever you need to hook it up to your TV. You got $100 to spend on games. Now, Dan and I both came up with different lists. We each have our own lists. I came up with, what did I say, 18 games?
You said 18, and I said 14, I think, or 15.
Yeah. But I also have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 other games that should be in your next round. Like, we're going to talk about the ones you start with. These are the $100 worth of games that you should start with. At least this is how I put mine together.
Yes.
So these aren't the definitive games on the platform. These are where you should go to begin. And then I have a couple of follow-ups like to these individual things, like, and then spend the money for this. So
I don't have all that because that is all, because as we have well documented on this show, I do not have nearly as much experience with the Atari 2600 as you do. But because I didn't want to bullshit about it, I went and actually did some research and played a bunch of old Atari games on my computer to really get a feel for some of this stuff. So everything that I'm going to talk about, I have actually gone and played. I'm not just going to be like, hey, you should get fucking boxing because that game looks cool. I actually went and did it. So,
well, that makes me very happy to hear. I'm very curious what your list sounds like. So I have mine in alphabetical order.
I have mine in order that I thought of them.
Fair enough. All right. So why don't
well, you have more, so why don't you start?
All right. Well, then I'm just going to start alphabetically at the top, and the first alphabetical game that I'm going to recommend is, of course, Adventure. Adventure is a quintessential Atari experience for good and ill. Unfortunately, the game itself has gotten a bit more expensive because it has the notoriety. I am going to recommend that everything you go for, all the prices that I came up with are from pricecharting.com, and these are for loose cartridges.
Yeah, me too.
Don't recommend, if you're going to get into Atari collecting, you're going to get more for if you're into this solely for the games, then go with loose carts. I love the art of Atari, so spending a little bit of extra to get boxes is a very cool thing because they're usually not that much more to get complete Atari games. And
no, I found I sent you a picture of Warlords and Football that I found at a random ass antique store, and they wanted like $5 for both of them, boxes and manuals complete.
And if I didn't already have them, I would have said, yeah, sure, pack them up. I'll take them. So it is something to bear in mind. If you're interested in the box art, which is gorgeous on a lot of these Atari games, then you could probably lose a handful of games on this list to get the boxes. But I had a hard enough time narrowing it down to only $100.
Yeah,
which is why I have my secondary list. Yeah, it is hard because there's a lot of really quintessential stuff. But back to Adventure, this game is really, really obtuse by modern standards. But what's great about Adventure is that it teaches you how to play these more complex Atari games. Like, this is a great way to learn how to do this weird stuff, because you're going to get out a pencil and paper and you're going to try to map this thing out, and then you're going to realize this map doesn't make any actual sense. Like, these screens don't connect to one another.
No, not at all. They are just individual rooms that happen to be next to each other.
Make a map that shows, like, all right, once I go through this area, it's going to take me here. And, like, you kind of have to make a very complicated map to try to figure this thing out. But that can be part of the fun of these weirdo old games. There's, like, they're not self-explanatory because they couldn't be sometimes. Like, if you were going to have a more in-depth concept than something like Space Invaders or Pac-Man, you can't put any sort of instruction in the game. The instruction manuals are very, very important. Now, all that stuff is available for free online, and there's walkthroughs to kind of teach you how to do it. But Adventure is really quintessential Atari in a lot of ways, as far as the more complicated Atari games. Now, you get Adventure, then you can move on to other stuff that's a little bit more complicated. Like, I'm not sure I'd recommend the Sword Quest games. They're not exactly good. But we did on Pain in the Assathon, we did Raiders of the Lost Ark, which gets a lot of flack, but I think it's a really cool game. It's really interesting, and it's similar to Adventure. You just have to figure out all these really strange things that they want you to do, and then actually execute doing them. And there's a certain degree of fun to that. So Adventure gets my first vote, and that currently seems to run for about $11.
Yep, I had Adventure on my list as well as a game that I went and played this week. And you're right, it is super obtuse and hard to wrap your mind around. But once you wrap your mind around the fact that it is hard to wrap your mind around, you're right, there is a level of fun there. And this game, it's one of the things that I think we'll talk about a lot going through this list of Atari games, is that it does require a certain amount of heavy lifting on the user's part, right? Because in Adventure, you are a square. So you have to imagine and kind of lose yourself in the world and kind of return to a much simpler time where there weren't, where we weren't talking about 3D modeled ray tracing and all of this shit. You're a fucking square, man, and you're fighting some shit that looks like ducks. And they say that they're dragons, but they don't fucking look like dragons. But if you can get past that, there is a really, really solid adventure to be had in the game. And yeah, I saw $11 as well. So that was on my list. I imagine we're going to have some similarities here, and then there will probably be some differences. Be weird if we had we can't have every single game because we have different amounts, but
yeah.
All right. So do you want me to go with my next title?
Whatever, man. Take your next pick.
All right. Well, I will go with my next A title to try and keep this, because I don't know if this is on your list or not. But for what I feel is the bargain price, Asteroids is running at $5 right now.
See, I had listed at 4, but yes.
Okay, 4 or 5. Asteroids is great. It is still fun to this day. Like, blasting those asteroids, spinning your ship around, blasting the asteroids is still to this day, all this time, all this many years later, one of the most satisfying video game experiences that you will ever have, in my
100%
opinion.
agree.
Also, when you decide to do the kamikaze run, where you just kind of fling yourself across space, spinning like a wild person, just shooting in all directions to see how long, because everybody has done it, and if you haven't done it, you will do it when you play the game. It's just one of those things that happens. It's a goddamn blast. It's great. It looks great. It sounds great. It is just a super, super fun game. And for $4 or $5, I mean, you really just, it's one of those ones that you kind of have to have. It is quintessential Atari.
This was also the next A game on my list, and I could not agree with you more, especially, and this is the thing, because the Atari 2600 has a lot of arcade translations on it. That was what you did back in the day.
Right.
And this is a great arcade conversion that I feel holds up as far as like just being a fun thing to play just as well, if not better, than the arcade original. The arcade original was all vector graphics, and it's still super cool, but that's not something you'll ever be able to properly emulate on a TV. You can get it like 99.9% to look like that, but real vector graphics just have a unique look to them. So playing this on anything other than the original arcade cabinet, but even then it was black and white. It was just vector graphics. This has these big, like, multicolored things, and it's got this really great dun 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 sound going on.
Yeah.
This was one of my favorites as a kid. I just booted this up earlier this week, just because I told you a few weeks ago that we were playing Circus Atari with the kids and stuff in the basement. I wanted to show them that I had that on the Switch and that Atari collection, and then we played Asteroids, and I gave the controller to Ellie, and she could play it. Like, anyone can play this game, and there's enough silly fun to be had with it. It's phenomenal. Great. This is a great arcade port that is immensely fun to play with. You're going for a score attack or whatever. Asteroids is well worth your $4.
Yeah, $4 or $5. I mean, come on, that's crazy. All right.
Yep.
What you got next?
My turn. So on to the letter B. This one is actually decently more expensive in the box, but loose, I would recommend Berserk for $3.
Mm-hmm. On my list as well.
Can't say no to this game for $3. This is kind of like a step back from adventure, right? Because there's not much in the way of exploration in this. This is, survive and get a high score kind of a situation, but it is a moving a character around a screen kind of a situation. This game on its own is just a fun thing. You get into a room, you try to blow up all the robots before they can blow you up, or before the giant bouncing smiley face, the evil Otto, shows up and squishes you flat, which is hilarious. But speaking of hilarious, especially if you've got kids, there's something inherently hysterical about walking into a wall and watching your little stick figure get fried.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty great.
It's hilarious. Oh my goodness. My sister and I used to just love playing this game. It's got really, really cool futuristic sounds. Now, this is also an arcade port. Berserk was ported to many different platforms, but the 2600 version has this really, really solid design to it that's just fun to play. It's really, really fun to play, especially with a joystick and the original controls. I mean, playing it on modern console, like through emulation or something with a Genesis joypad or something, is still neat, but there is a specific charm about playing this game with an Atari 2600 joystick. It's wonderful. Love this one.
Yeah, it's really, really great. And what was so cool about Berserk was that it shared a lot of similarities, because a lot of early arcade games, and by that point, early Atari games, were maze games, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But this was a maze game where you could fight back. And that was just kind of awesome and like a revolutionary idea at the time. And it is an intense game. Like the difficulty ramps up, and you will find yourself playing through this game really super invested in what is happening in this game. And once Otto shows up, dude, like fucking scary. Like, not
There's
scary
a
at all.
relentless smiley face coming after me. And I think one of the game modes makes him, because there's all these different game modes you can play it as, but one of them has some destructible auto. But then there's like an indestructible auto.
Yeah.
Like, that thing shows up, run, because you have no choice. It will kill you.
All right. Well, for my next title, actually going back, I'm surprised. I don't know if I'm surprised that this one didn't make your list. I had also for $4 Battlezone.
Okay.
I think Battlezone is one of those games that when you look at what was capable on the Atari, what people were able to pull out of that system, this is just a really, really impressive 3D tank battler, right? Like, it looks as good, I think, as the arcade did. It controls well. It's really tough, but it's also really fair. And it's just fun. You know, like, it is a very authentic, I assume, I've never driven a tank, but it felt very authentic. Driving around this map and just battling these tanks, and like the bonus shit would come in, like, what was it, a UFO that would come across the top maybe, or like a plane that would come across that you could like, all right, I see the tank in front of me, but I can get like 2,000 points if I shoot this thing up here. So there's like that risk reward factor, which is also present in a lot of older Atari titles. Just a really, really fun game. Like I said, really impressive graphics, like the tank treads moving at the bottom of your screen as you're going around. It was awesome. Me and my buddy Nick played a ton of this game when we were kids. And for $4, I think it is it's one of those like highlight kind of games of like, look at what this fucking thing could do.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. It's it didn't make my list because I don't know, it just didn't make the cut for me. It was one of those things that I was originally just running down all the names. It was one that was on there, but then I eventually took it off for other things. I do agree that it's one of those really cool technical showcases. Like, check out what the Atari 2600 can actually do, which is neat. But I didn't really have a huge nostalgia connection to this one. I didn't play this one when I was younger. I played it more recently. But I certainly don't begrudge you choosing that game.
All right. What you got?
My next pick starts off with the letter C. This is one of my all-time favorite Atari 2600 games, and that is California Games from Epix. This is such a great version of this game. This is my favorite version of the game. Even more so than any other version I've played for any other platform. I know, like, the Lynx version's great. People like the NES version. I love the 2600 version. It's simple, it's effective, it's got great character, and it's another really cool technical showcase for the platform with like the surfing. The effect for the wave is really something to see. I'm not sure it is technically good, but it is really impressive. It's also got the Activision Sunset, even though this wasn't an Activision game. This was Epix. But and it also is fun as stuff like the foot bag is. And listening to an Atari 2600 rendition of Louie Louie is a life experience that everyone should have. But the BMX game is phenomenal. It's so much fun. It's so silly and ridiculous. You're this, solid black stick figure on wheels representing a bike, and you can just like knock yourself out hitting trees. It's a really fun game. It is a genuinely fun and awesome game. And especially like when you learn the surfing, I'm still not convinced you actually can learn the surfing, but you can learn it to a degree and do some fun stunts. And it is a really neat game. For $4, California Games gets my vote.
All right, man. Did not make my list, but the next game on my list, I mean, I feel like it has to be on yours, sticking with the letter C. And that would be for the bargain basement price of $5, Combat.
Wow, $5? I saw it for $3.
Oh, okay. I started this like 3-4 weeks ago, so maybe prices have changed, but
Combat is like the single most. I don't think it's physically possible to get an Atari 2600 without at least
Combat.
One copy of maybe even two.
Right.
So I that game's definitely not $5. That's insanity.
Okay.
Either way, yeah, no, combat's on my list for sure.
It has to be, right?
And combat is in fact part of why Battlezone didn't make my list.
I get that.
You do combat first, and then I would graduate to Battlezone.
I get that. I do. I really I understand that. I just think Battlezone's cool. But like the thing about combat, I don't know if there is a more fun, like at its core, simple, fun 2-player game that has ever been released that tops combat. It's fucking great.
The amount of you're not wrong. The amount of fun you can have with the simple, basic 2-player setup, and that was why right there, 100% why I put combat on my list, because there's part of the charm of the Atari 2600 is the local multiplayer aspect, and combat has no single player.
No,
so this has to be played with 2 players, and there are so many different variations, and they're all fun.
Every single one is fun.
They're
planes
great.
And tanks and fucking
invisible tanks, and tanks, bullets, and
so great.
The controllable bullets and the jets, the helicopter. Like it was jets and planes and tanks, right? There wasn't helicopters. I'm imagining things. And they the jets and the planes and stuff. They all kind of work a little bit differently, and they're just. This game is too much fun. You get another person who can play even close to on the same level as you, and you're just in for an instant good time. It is 100% fair. It is ridiculously good multiplayer.
And it's so replayable because it is fair. Like you said, there's not that level of like, oh my God, that was so cheap, or you found like this one exploit strategy or whatever. It's just a very fair competitive multiplayer where as soon as a round is over, you're like, all right, one more. All right, one more. All right, one more. It is just the fucking king of all right, one more time. Game's great.
Hard agree. A very, very good pick. I'm going to go ahead and back up in the letter C by one, and I'm going to recommend, for use with your paddle controllers, Circus Atari.
All right.
Circus Atari goes for about $5. It's got really cool box art, and it is hysterically funny. I waffled back and forth between this and Breakout, mostly because I really thought it was important to get a good paddle game going on there. Mm-hmm. And I just think that Circus Atari is worth the $5. One, just for the pure unadulterated hilarity of watching the stick figure crash headfirst into the ground, and then his head turns into like a puddle, and then his limbs are just like twitching. It's hilarious, but it's also a really interesting take on Breakout, because you're not just landing on a paddle and then making the ball go back and forth. You're bouncing a person back and forth on a seesaw. So there's like this extra layer of strategy to it. I think this game's hilarious. I think it's a lot of fun. It's not a lot of fun for a lot of hours, but it's a very uniquely Atari 2600 experience. And playing it on modern consoles without the original paddles, or with like the Hyperkin Ranger controller, like just
right
there, you got to play this with a paddle. Just like you got to play Arkanoid with a paddle, you know, you've got to do it with the right kind of
paddle,
controls.
man. Paddle was something else.
So yeah, that gets a big time thumbs up for me. Circus Atari, just as here's your intro to using a paddle.
I can see that. All right, well, I'm going to jump down. I'm going to keep alphabetical. I haven't had too much to drink, so I should be okay. And I'm going to jump all the way down to the letter F with perhaps the most obvious choice for this list, apart from combat. And that would be, when I looked it up, it was $7, but that would be Frogger. And it's Frogger.
It is.
What more do you need to hear? It's fucking Frogger. It's great. It plays better than the arcade, arguably. It looks great. It's Frogger. Like, what more do you need?
This was the last cut I made from my list, was Frogger.
You cut Frogger?
I had to cut Frogger. Because at the end of the day, while it is a very impressive version of Frogger, it's my favorite version of Frogger. You can play Frogger in many other ways on many other platforms that are you'll get that same basic principle. I love this game. I love the 2600 version, but it goes on my second level of games that you get list.
I feel like Ferg is going to disown you.
I don't know. I think
maybe not.
Hearing what else is on my list, I had to think very, very hard about what, because like I said, this was the last thing I cut. I did not want to take this off, but when I looked at the variations of what was left on my list of like, all right, these are the different kinds of games that we're seeing here. Frogger is technically playable elsewhere. Like this and Dig Dug were so hard to cut because Dig Dug is also a fantastic port for Atari 2600. It's my favorite version to play, but at the end of the day,
I would argue that the NES one is better.
Oh, there's definitely better versions. The 2600 is just my favorite one.
Sure.
That was the first version I played. I think it's a great version. It has a really cool sound to it and whatnot. I love Dig Dug for 2600.
It was a hard cut for me too, because I also love Dig Dug.
Right, they're great, but they are very playable in many other places. When I think of, all right, you're getting the 2600, there's going to be a handful of arcade ports that are just, these are the way to play this game. And then there's going to be a handful of other stuff that's all original stuff. So Frogger it killed me to do it, but I had to take it off the list.
Shocked, flabbergasted, little disgusted, little turned on.
Well, I got to say, I'm a little shocked and flabbergasted that you did not pick my next pick if you're going alphabetical, because the letter D brings us Defender.
I do love Defender.
And
just missed.
I adore Defender, and I especially love it on the 2600. I was just talking to somebody else about this, about 2600 games. He had never played the arcade version, and I played it not when I was a kid, but a little bit older, and had my mind completely blown because I love 2600 Defender, and then I played it in the arcade, and I hated it because the controls were intentionally very different, right? That game was designed to be hard, and I just like that game's hard enough on the 2600, moving it around with just the joystick in the direction you want to go without having to deal with all the different, buttons to change directions and stuff like that. Defender costs a whopping $6. It's got super cool cover art, and it's got just a crazy amount of challenge. It's great. It's you got to fly around. You got to stop these aliens from abducting the humans, and if you shoot them out of the sky, you can zoom in and catch them so they don't die when they hit the ground. It's got a really good sound to it. The way this game sounds just fills me with joy. I love the sound effects in Defender for 2600 because, God, we spent so much time playing this game. And like the fact that if they get away with abducting the humans, they become evil ships that you then have to kill is like that always kind of affected me when I was a kid because there's really nasty red ones that fly around.
Yeah.
Defender for 2600 is so good, and in my humble opinion is superior to the arcade original. Just in terms of playability, because definitely play the arcade version too, because the arcade version also has this very unique look and sound to it that's so worth your time to play, but it doesn't negate the 2600 version. It's different enough to be its own unique animal, especially with the way it controls, and I just love it. Defender is just highest marks. Wonderful, wonderful game for 2600.
It just missed my list because my fond memories of Defender are at Geet's Diner and on my computer. That's where I played it. I played Defender on the computer, and it worked really well on the keyboard.
I'll bet it did, yeah.
It was like really, really effective to play on the keyboard. But yeah, it did. It was close because it's Defender. So, it is what it is. All right, my next game is sticking with the letter F. I don't know that I've ever heard you mention this game, but that would be Frogs and Flies.
Frogs and Flies. Yeah, that's a neat game. That didn't even land in contention for me, but it is a really neat game. I like that one.
I feel like this is one of those games that gets overlooked a lot. This is another one of the games where, my buddy who lived down the street from me, this was one of those things that we would play because it's a really, really good 2-player game where you are controlling the angle and the jump of your frog with the joystick, right? So how high and how far you're going to jump. It's like there's a really good, again, risk-reward balance playing in there where because you got to click the button as well to zip your tongue out to catch a fly, and like catching a fly right before your friend was going to get one is just awesome. The amount of shit talking that happened for like us as 7-year-olds like playing through this game, it was just so fun. And I felt like, looking at this list of other stuff, because there's some other heavy hitters on here, right, on my list, and I was looking at it and I was like, it's $6, and it's one of those games where I feel like if you play this, if you had an Atari and it's something that you're not familiar with, but you check it out and you play it against somebody, like, it is a really cool competitive game, and it's just one of those ones that I feel is really overlooked. It doesn't look the best. Like, the frogs look okay. You can tell, like, that you're landing on some giant ass, like, mutant lily pads, which are just ridiculous. But it's a really, really fun game that I think more people should check out.
I would agree. I would put this in like, I would definitely consider this for like second tier. Like, after you've gotten your initial run of games, this is a really great pick. And you're right, it is often overlooked. I personally overlooked it when I was younger because I figured it was just a Frogger ripoff.
Yeah.
Which it very much isn't. It plays entirely different from Frogger. I mean, this is an M Network game. This was Mattel's Atari label. Another M Network game that I really sadly had to cut was Astro Blast, but I'll talk more about that in a little bit. Mm-hmm. No, this is a great pick. Like I said, I wouldn't put it on my initial $100 list, but I totally understand why somebody would. Yeah, and I think it's a really cool pick.
Thanks, man. That makes me feel good. I'm really just looking for your and Ferg's approval on my list. Everybody else can get fucked, but if you guys are like, it's a pretty good pick, I'm like, all right, sweet, I did all right.
Solid choice. Well done. All right, my next pick is an Activision title. There are a lot of really good Activision games for the Atari 2600, without a doubt. This one is a whopping $4, and it is a lot of fun. It is Grand Prix. This is... I thought it was important to get a racing game on there, and I kind of waffled a little bit on wanting to put Pole Position on there, because Pole Position for 2600 is pretty fun.
That's the one that just missed for me.
End of the day, if I got to pick a racing game for 2600, I'm totally picking Grand Prix. Dragster's another great one, but I would graduate to Dragster from Grand Prix, because I think Grand Prix just gets a simple but effective a little bit better. This is a really good looking 2600 game, and it's pretty sure it's got a 2-player mode, and it's just a lot of fun. It's a top view racing left to right, so it's kind of a weird look. No, this isn't split screen. What am I thinking about? I'm like imagining things here, and I got to look it up. God,
no,
it's so long since I played it.
I don't think it has a 2-player version.
Yeah, it doesn't have 2-player. I'm crazy. Yeah, no, this is single player. Your racing car looks pretty snazzy and got what looks like cabbages running around the top of the bottom of the screen. But you just
it does very much look like cabbages.
You just kind of weave in and out of different cars. The crashing looks and sounds pretty cool. And the wheel animation for your wheels spinning. If you look this up on YouTube, you can't really see it that well because it's one of those things that doesn't translate all that well. Mm-hmm. But if you're playing this on an old TV or on a CRT, this game just has a really cool look to it, and I always had a lot of fun with it. And it's a very basic racing game, as racing games tended to be on the 2600. I just love it.
Did this have a like a drag race mode in it as well, where like it was just you and another car, or was that Dragster?
I think you're thinking of Dragster, which was also an Activision joint, and one that I highly recommend. That game's also really fun. but I would put that as your second tier. Might wait, save up and get Dragster a little later for your first $100 for a taste of Activision racing on the 2600. Endoro's another cool choice. There's just something I think that's a little bit more charming about Grand Prix, because stuff like Enduro and pole position reminds you a lot of modern racing games from behind the vehicle views, whereas this is top down, left to right racing. So it has a very unique look and feel.
Yeah,
they
it's
don't really
weird.
make racing games like this because it's kind of weird. Like the whole behind the car thing just works better as a racing game, but because of its simplicity, this works very well. So that gets my pick.
Yeah, I do not have any racing games on mine. I came very close to putting pole position on there. In fact, I might have even been able to include it if some of my pricing is a little bit off, if I would have looked at a different time. But, all right. We are skipping all the way down now to the letter M.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Skipping all the way down to the letter M, and we are getting to the $7 Moon Patrol.
Oh, very good pick.
Now, the 2600 version of Moon Patrol does not look very good.
No, it does not.
Especially, like, even compared to other 2600 releases, it doesn't look, my notes put, it looks not great. That is what I wrote. But it plays very well, and Moon Patrol is really fun to play. So it gets my vote. I don't really have much more than that to say, but I like Moon Patrol.
Moon Patrol is a great game.
It's got interesting physics. Like it's a neat game. There's not very much else I feel that plays like Moon Patrol, that kind of has this weird it's got a weird weight to it. I don't know, I really, really like it. And it's more expensive than I perhaps would want it to be on the 2600. Like $7, a little bit pricey, and I had to cut things like pole position. But I feel like the fun factor of Moon Patrol is there, that the $7 is worth the investment.
This is one of those games that didn't make my list because there are better ways to play Moon Patrol. And while this is a very respectable game for the 2600, it's not the version of Moon Patrol that I'd say, you should definitely play this version of Moon Patrol. Like, it's one of those situations that really works as this is impressive that they pulled a game this complicated off on the 2600, because Moon Patrol, if you've never played it before, kind of plays like a cross. It's like playing two games at once. It's almost like a Henry Hatsworth type of situation where you've got to work on, you could have built an entire 2600 game just on the forward momentum, right? You're driving forward, you got to jump over holes, and you got to shoot little hills and whatever other obstacles show up in front of you. But then you also have all these creatures coming at you from above, so you're also like playing Space Invaders at the same time. Or since they're so much more active, it's more like something like Galaga.
I would say Galaga, I think, is a more fair choice. The comparison.
I remember thinking as a kid, because I had never seen the arcade version before, like wondering what this vehicle looks like, because it looks like it's walking. Like
it doesn't look great
around. Yeah, it looks like it's walking in some way. I always thought this game was really, really charming. I was really interested in trying to play more of this when I was younger, but I never owned it. I just was able to play it at friends' house from time to time. It has the music, which is a very important thing. But again, I would say that this isn't like the definitive way to play this game. However, it's impossible to fault somebody for saying like that you shouldn't have this in your Atari 2600 collection, especially if you're not going to seek it out in any other flavor. Moon Patrol is a classic for a reason, because it's such a unique title.
There's really nothing else like it.
Yeah, not quite. It's really cool. So
and see that it's interesting. You brought that up a couple of times now. I didn't even think of it like that. Of like, is this for multi-platform releases? Is this the best way to play it? I only thought about 2600 for this.
Yeah, see, that was kind of one of my big
except for Dig
points
Dug. I did think about Dig Dug.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I get this. No.
Well, I just thought it was kind of a sticking point. If you only have $100 to spend on this one system, it's not like this is going to be your only system. So what are the best representations of what the 2600 is and best values for your dollars? Like there's better ways to get Moon Patrol. How much did you say this one was?
$7.
I mean, it's $8 for the arcade version on Switch. It's like the Arcade Archives one. Like that's
my thought is that you only have $100, not you have $100 for this and $100 for the next one. My thought was if you got a system and $100 and this is your only $100 to spend on video games, that was where I approached it from. I get where you're coming from too.
Fair enough. This is a solid choice, and anything that gets me talking about Moon Patrol is a good thing.
Yeah, Moon Patrol is fucking dope.
It definitely wasn't on my list, but because I view the 2600 version of this game as more of an amusing curiosity than like a good way to play Moon Patrol, but it is certainly a fascinating game.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I've still got some earlier letters here, starting with the letter H. I highly recommend for the low price of $5 Haunted House.
I missed one. I'm sorry.
That's
yes,
okay.
Go ahead. I missed a K.
Okay. All right. I got a K. Let's see if we have the same one.
I'm sure it is.
Haunted House is another one of those really great examples of kind of like a maze game. It is a slightly more complicated situation, similar to something like Adventure, but not quite as complex. So we're really talking more, I guess, more in line with something like Berserk, but there's not as much in the way of offensive capabilities. This is like a very, 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 very early take on something like survival horror. Right. You have a certain number of matches that you can use to light your way, and you're looking for these 3 pieces of an urn to escape this haunted house. And you can pick up weapons and stuff to get past the different monsters, but you can't hold the weapons and the pieces of the urn at the same time. So you kind of have to use this strategy of how do I safely get this piece away from this monster and et cetera, et cetera. And you play as this little pair of eyeballs that walks around the house because you're in the dark, and so all you can see is your eyeballs, like in an old Looney Tunes cartoon. And when you die, your eyeballs spin around, and it's you get rewarded with a weird take on the Twilight Zone theme song when you beat the game. I love this one. This is technically the first video game I ever beat because it does have a finite beginning, middle, and end. Right. And it's a really neat experience. This is definitely a cannot miss 2600 game as far as I'm concerned. It's really one of those. This is what this system was like. This is if you're thinking of a more traditional, not a score attack kind of experience. This is what that was on the 2600. And I think this does a great job of illustrating that.
And it may have the best, or maybe not best, but the coolest artwork of any fucking video game box on the Atari.
Oh, it's got great box art. My favorite is
creepy ass picture.
Super creepy picture. I love Video Pinball's artwork, but
that one's pretty great too.
Haunted House is definitely up there.
All right, so jumping back because I'm bad at the alphabet. Kaboom is my K. Kaboom. Fuck yeah, $6.
Yep. See, again, I saw that at 5. That's interesting.
Yeah, all right, that's fair.
See, I did this through Game Eye.
I did it through price charting.
Gotcha.
Like their
See,
website.
Game Eye links to price charting, so. Yeah, I'm wondering if that's where the differences we're getting on here.
Thankfully, it's not a very big difference. And again, like I said, I did this like 2-3 weeks ago when we first started talking about it. I like ripped up my list real quick. Mm-hmm. Kaboom is awesome.
Absolutely.
This is just the paddle controller fucking sings, dude.
Yes, this is the other take on the paddle controller as far as I'm concerned. Because the paddles I think are really intrinsic to what makes the 2600 the 2600. It's such an important thing. But Circus Atari and Kaboom are 2 of the best uses of the paddle, and they're very different flavors because where Circus Atari or Breakout is about hitting things at the top of the screen, Kaboom is about catching things at the bottom.
And my God, is it addictive?
Yes, it is.
Oh my God. I can't really it's one of those weird games where I can't really put a finger on what makes it so incredibly addictive. This is one of the most addictive games I've ever played. Me and my buddy Nick lost days of our lives, like a fucking soap opera to this game. Like just sitting there playing over and over and over again. That stupid escaped convict at the top making dumb facial expressions at me, dropping bombs. Like, oh my God, this game is just so fun and so replayable. Like I said, $6, $5, whatever. If you can get this game for about that, there may not be a better fun to dollar ratio to be had on any of these lists that we are going to do.
I think part of what makes this game so gratifying to play is that it seems, if you're looking at it, it seems impossible. And then when you play it, you feel amazing because you can do it. You can follow this pattern. And then when you do, you just feel so good getting all this right. Cause it's madness. It's just these tons of bombs falling all over the place, but it's totally doable. And I think that's part of the specialness of this game. It's really, really cool. It's very similar if you've ever played the Game & Watch game Parachute. You're basically just moving this thing around and trying to stop a bomb from hitting, from getting past you. And it's got really gratifying sound effects. This is another Activision game, and Activision was it was a completely different company back then. Right?
It really
Activision we're not talking about the Activision of today. They have the same logo, and they're technically the same company, but Bobby Kotick was nowhere near this thing. Activision was all about making the best games that could really utilize the 2600 technology in ways that Atari wasn't even doing themselves. And Kaboom is just a flippin' masterpiece. This game's so much fun.
It's so fun. It's so fun. All right, that's it. I'm back down to the M's after that.
All right. Well, I believe that you skipped over two of my very favorite Atari 2600 games. And this one in particular is the best of its kind and superior to the arcade version, in my humble opinion, and I think in most people's opinion, honestly. And that would be Junior Pac-Man.
Okay.
Junior Pac-Man on 2600 is the best Pac-Man to get for this platform. After you get Junior Pac-Man in your next round of buying games, then you buy Ms. Pac-Man, because Ms. Pac-Man on 2600 is great. But like the other things, you've played Ms. Pac-Man before, and you've probably played better versions of it. Even though the 2600 version is great, Ms. Pac-Man, the arcade version, you plunk a quarter into play. That's the way to play Ms. Pac-Man. Yeah. Junior Pac-Man on 2600 is its own animal. The arcade version moves very slowly left to right. The 2600 version scrolls relatively quickly top to bottom. It has really, really great graphics. Like, it's visually so much better that, like, Ms. Pac-Man was a vast improvement over Pac-Man on 2600. Junior Pac-Man is as much of an improvement over Ms. Pac-Man. It's kind of a technological wonder on this platform. How many moving parts, how fast the ghosts move, the different numbers of mazes that are in there. Junior Pac-Man on 2600 is astounding, and it's really one of the best Pac-Man games ever put together, specifically the 2600 version of Junior Pac-Man. It's a bit pricey at $9, but it is well worth it. It is well worth the $9. Really, if you playing games from this particular vintage, you've got to have something Pac-Man related involved, right? Because Pac-Man was quintessential gaming of this era.
Sure.
And bang for your buck, no matter how you look at it, Junior Pac-Man is so uniquely, this 2600 version is such a unique experience for this platform. So definitely have to get Junior Pac-Man on 2600.
See, now my next choice is the flavor of Pac-Man that I went with on the list, but it is not actually Pac-Man. And I know that this is not a game that will make many other people's list, but I've talked about it before. It is possibly superior on the ColecoVision, but for $3, Mousetrap is where it's at for me. I fucking adore Mousetrap. Mostly because I feel like it's a more strategic game than Pac-Man, certainly than the original Pac-Man.
Yeah.
It is a deceptively tough game, because looking at it, you're like, oh, it's another Pac-Man clone. But it's not, because what was so cool about this game is that one of the things that plagued the 2600, right? And correct me if I'm wrong here, but a lot of games had a lot of issues with flicker, right? There's a lot of screen flicker. And what is so cool about Mousetrap is that there are only very specific areas of the maze that flicker. And those areas of the maze that flicker do so because you can change the maze as you were playing through it and kind of reshape it. And it just added this whole new layer of strategy to it. It's just really fucking cool. I just always liked if I collect the bones, and the bones look fucking terrible on the 2600. They look bad. But once you collect the bones, your mouse turns into a cat-eating dog, because there's no ghosts in this one. You're a mouse, so there's cats trying to eat you. But you collect these dog bones and you chomp on those, and you turn into a big cat-eating dog. And that is very, very awesome. Like I said, it's $3. It is definitely an interesting change of pace from Pac-Man and from traditional like Pac-Man and Pac-Man styled games. And I think for that $3, with the way that my list is constructed, it is well worth your time and money.
No arguments here. It definitely didn't make my list. I think this game's neat. I'm
super into Mousetrap.
Yeah, it's a very cool game. No question about it. I like the door mechanic is really cool. It does not have the same personality that I love about the Pac-Man games. You know, specifically, Miss Pac-Man's a really solid pick.
Oh, come on, the little mouse with his mouth moving the whole time you're moving around the screen, like he's trying to tell you something, or he's just talking shit.
It's just the
to
mouse
the cats
face
the whole time.
So it's got like the similar to like the Pac-Man issue. It's just the face. It's not. It doesn't move and it doesn't change directions like with you. No. It's just this face that's floating around this maze, or a series of mazes, which is very cool. The reason I go with Junior Pac-Man, because Junior Pac-Man is also a bit complex. You've got the larger screen that scrolls up and down. You've got the different shaped pellets that slow you down but are worth more points. And the fruit or the special items will move around the screen instead of staying stationary. But they'll hop around. But if they run into one of your power pellets, they'll explode and kill the power pellet with it. So you have to seek them out to eat them. This is a really good pick. It's definitely not one of my picks, but I respect this choice wholeheartedly. I've never played this on any other platforms, right? This is an arcade game.
It's an arcade game. The ColecoVision version is vastly superior. The colors are better. It had the cool insert for the weird ColecoVision controller. I felt like it controlled really well with the ColecoVision, like that weird ass joystick. So I definitely preferred on that. But again, like I said, I wasn't thinking about like, oh, there's a better version to play.
Yeah. And I'm not even going to say, like, I'm looking at the arcade version now, and I'm not sure I'd say that the 2600 version is the worst version to play of this. There's a very specific personality going on in that 2600 version.
Yeah, I like
what you said about the flicker. I'm looking at this, and it looks the arcade version looks kind of like a ZX Spectrum game, like the way it handles color. I think that the 2600 version has a little bit better of a personality. That's the flicker. Cool. Was really cool because it kind of encouraged you, because nothing else was flickering. Like in the ColecoVision version, there's a lot more colors. You go to the little blue section of the map, and you like, okay, I can obviously do something there. Wow, yeah,
there's a little door that says in. There's a whole bunch going on in the ColecoVision version.
It's just about arcade perfect on ColecoVision.
Yeah, it really is. But you look at that 2600 version, and they made really smart choices and made a really playable version of it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, fucking love it.
That's a really interesting pick. Well done.
All right. Sweet.
My next pick, another one of my all-time favorite Atari 2600 games for $5 is Jungle Hunt.
Oh, that was close.
Love Jungle Hunt.
Jungle Hunt was close.
Platformers, right? Running and jumping games. There's not a ton of them on the 2600, and Donkey Kong on 2600 is not great. This game, however, I definitely stand firm is better than the arcade version. The arcade version's it's neat. I mean, it's very cool, but there's just something about this Atari 2600 version that it's probably nostalgia, but there's something really, 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 really wonderful about this game. It's got really cool graphics for a 2600 game. It feels good to play. It's got a cute little jingle in it, especially when you get to the cannibals. It just plays great. It's really, really fun to play. So you start out, you're this jungle dude out to save your girlfriend who's been captured by cannibals. You start off playing on these vines, right? You're over all these sticker brambles and stuff. So if you fall in there, you're toast. You got to swing from vine to vine, and it's all about timing. Like you got to see where the vines are swinging so that when you land on it, it'll be closer to you so that you don't fall into the ground. Then you move on to the next level, and it's an underwater thing. So now you're swimming. You got full 8-way control over your character, and you've got a harpoon. Apparently, you can't really see it in the 2600 game, but it's in the instruction manual.
But it's there.
And there's all these alligators or crocodiles or whatever they are. They're swimming at you, and you can just avoid them. But if you can stab them when their mouths are closed, you get points. Of course, it's a risk-reward thing. If you stab them when their mouths are open, then you're toast. You also have to keep an eye on your oxygen levels because you're swimming and you can't stay underwater the whole time. So you got to keep going up to the surface for air, which is super cool. Then you move on to the boulder dodging stage. Now, the arcade game, this is going uphill. Maybe it's just because this is the first version I played, but I prefer the 2600 version where it's straight at you. You're going from right to left, and you have to jump over these boulders that are coming at you. And there's little small boulders. Those can pretty much just be jumped over with your regular jump at any time. But periodically, you'll get these big boulders that bounce in really erratic patterns. And you've got to either figure out where it's going to stop so you can duck, or like ducking under it seems to be the best course of action on those. But you can also jump over them if you can time where they're going to go down just right. It's pretty hard, but it's really cool. And also, it's got its own sort of sense of parallax scrolling. Like the vines and the trees scroll at different speeds, which is really cool to see on the 2600. It's a very impressive visual. And then the last stage is all about these cannibals that are jumping back and forth and chasing after you. And it's got this really cool little music playing. And you've just got to time your jump exactly right to get over them, which is a lot harder than it looks. Because if you screw up even just a little bit, you just squish right down to the ground like they got you. And then you just keep doing it over and over again. It's those 4 stages, but those stages are so unique. And it's got a wonderful, wonderful sense of personality. You do a cute little dance with your lady friend when you save her, and it's a wonderful little adventure game. Big thumbs up from me.
Yeah, I like it quite a bit. Didn't make my list because it was a game, again, like Defender, that I played on the PC. That was where I played that game. I didn't even know there was a 2600 version for like years and years and years. Just never had any clue. So the nostalgia wasn't there for me, but I cannot argue with that as a choice. That is a very solid choice.
I have never even seen the PC version of this before. I'm going to look it up on YouTube right now and see how it stacks up.
Yeah. At least I'm pretty sure it was PC. I mean, maybe it was. I don't fucking. I'm old, Kris.
Oh my God. Yeah, no, this gets a big fat no from me.
That was the way I played it. That's what I knew. Whatever. I am jumping now down to, again, I feel like this is an obvious choice, but and I say obvious choice, but you cut Frogger, so what the fuck do I know about what you're going to pick? But jumping down to the letter P, Kris, the most expensive game on my list is the $11 Pitfall.
Well worth it. I saw mine at 10, and it's absolutely on my list.
It has to be, right?
Yes, it does have to be.
It just has to be.
There was a real I had a real problem with this one because I really wanted to put Pitfall 2 on there. Because
but
Pitfall
it has
2
to be Pitfall.
is a work of art.
It is.
Pitfall 2, even though it's an astonishing game, it's $20.
Yeah, just can't do it. That's too big of a chunk on the Atari.
I couldn't cut so many. Like, I think that game is worth the $20.
Sure.
But I couldn't cut so many other games to justify its price. So
I had a hard time with Pitfall at 11.
Yeah, it's kind of spicy.
That's pricey.
It is quintessential Atari. You can't do Atari without Pitfall, and
you just can't.
It's great.
You got 256 screens to make your way through. You got 32 treasures you got to collect, and you got 20 minutes. Like, that is still an engaging premise today. Pitfall is still fun. You've never beaten it? Neither have I.
I've never gotten I've never been able to do it. Never gotten all the treasures.
Can't do it. Just can't do it. It is frustratingly clunky in certain parts where you're just fucking do the thing. God damn it. But oh my God, it's just a wonderful, wonderful game. And it was so creative and imaginative, and just one of those games where you played it and you were like, this is a whole other world. This is a whole other level of video game development. I don't even know what shit is. I'm like 5 years old. But this, you could tell, even at a young age for us as kids, that this was on a whole other level of what video games could be.
Well, I don't know that I agree with that statement, because I think this was the first video game I remember seeing.
Really?
I think so. I remember
it's definitely not the first I remember seeing.
At my cousin's house, they had a 2600 in their upstairs bedroom, and I was walking past the room, and I saw them playing it, and I saw the hole open up.
Yeah,
and
right?
I was like, what? What's
what
happening
is even
right
happening?
now? And I was just captivated by it. It's such a neat thing. Like, learning that you can jump on the alligator heads, and then, like, I tried it and I immediately fell in their mouth, and like, no, you got to land where their mouth isn't. Like, swinging on the vine and hearing the pseudo Tarzan yell thing. Like, Pitfall's got it all, man. That game's great. It seems like it doesn't at first, right? Because you're just like, oh, well, I dropped my score all the way down to 0, and there's no penalty for that. So what's the point of this game? Like, read the instructions and then try and do it right and see what you can do. And it's a lot of fun. It's still a lot of fun.
Yeah, that game fucking rules.
Absolutely.
Great.
Worth the $10. A spicy one, but again,
it is.
Activision doing its thing, man. Activision was great. Sticking with Activision for me, I'm still on the letter M, and this was a tough pick, right? I wanted to go with Space Invaders because Space Invaders is the classic, and it's $5. I wanted to go with Astroblast because I think Astroblast is a really great take on the Space Invader style. So is Gorf. So is Demon Attack. Demon Attack is
Gorf.
Right, Gorf was great. Demon Attack
Gorf
is
rules.
really one of the best takes on that kind of a thing. But so you have to have something like that. If you're going to buy an Atari 2600, you have to have something of the Space Invaders ilk. It's just one of the types of games that existed on this platform that has to be played. Centipede, another great example that works really well in the 2600. But for my money, for the $7, I believe it is 100% worth it. And I think it's personally my favorite one on the platform of this type of the space shooter genre is Mega Mania from Activision.
See, and that is one I have no experience with.
It is awesome. It is extremely good. It does the combat thing where you shoot, and then if you move, it moves your bullet with it.
Okay.
And it starts off relatively simplistic. You just got these little, things coming down from the top, Space Invader style. But then every stage they move in different patterns, and it's not about whether or not they hit the bottom of the screen, because you'll get to these things where they'll just shoot right down through the bottom of the screen. It doesn't even matter. That doesn't kill you. It's just whether or not you get hit. And it's ridiculously addictive. It's very, very fun. It's one of my absolute favorite takes on this specific space shooter genre of Space Invaders. I do think that you follow this up with Space Invaders, and then you follow up Space Invaders with your Demon Attack, your Astro Blast, your Gorf. Astro Blast was so hard for me to cut because that game is freaking phenomenal. It's all of $2, but
yeah,
$100 was my limit, so that's where I drew the line. And Mega Mania absolutely gets my pick for this. It's a phenomenally fun game, controls tight as a drum, and you can really just do some really cool stuff in it. It's very colorful. It's got great sound. It's killer. Mega Mania rules.
I do not know Mega Mania. My pick was Space Invaders.
Can't go wrong.
You just really can't. It's $5.
Yep.
It's Space Invaders. Like the notes that I wrote for myself were, again, like Frogger, it's Space Invaders.
Yeah.
Like that, the march of the relentless march of the aliens. It's so effective.
Specifically the 2600 version.
Oh,
see,
man.
That's the thing about Space Invaders on 2600 is it is that a unique
sound.
version of that game, and it's the sound. It's that sound of it, because it's not doing the dun 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 dun. It's a march. It's
yeah,
and it drills into your head.
Yeah,
and when you die, your ship makes a fart noise. So,
it does, which is super fun.
It's hilarious. And you got like the harder mode that you can change your ship to be like twice as wide.
Yeah,
a much easier target. There's so
it had like over
100
variations in it,
which is
like it was crazy,
bananas.
Just crazy.
It looks great. It sounds great. It was Space Invaders at home, right? That was a huge deal back then. And even to this day, it stands up as one of the most fun versions of Space Invaders to play. Yeah. The only reason it didn't make my list was because Mega Mania exists.
Yeah, I don't know Mega Mania. Maybe it would have made my list if I had played it, but goddamn, for $5, man.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I waffled back and forth on this too, because you can get Space Invaders and Astro Blast for the price of Mega Mania, which might be a better deal. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what the right decision on that is. That's a hard call. My gut says Mega Mania, just because it's unique, because there are so many other versions of Space Invaders out there to try.
Sure.
The property's been around, and there's only one Mega Mania, and that's, as far as I know, only on 2600. That's why I went with it, just for the unique factor.
That sound of that march, though. Oh
yeah, is
nightmares.
Iconic.
Nightmares,
wonderful,
man.
Wonderful pick.
So good. All right. My
next pick is a game that I seem to be the only one on the planet that loves as much as I do. But when you go back to the Atari and NES, the early days of video games, one of the most important things to get right on your platform was a pinball game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, everyone loves video pinball in 2600, and I'm not going to hold that against anybody. But for my money, the $6 Midnight Magic is the pinball game to get on Atari 2600. I promise you won't regret it if you get this game, because you got to play a video pinball. You have to play a video version of pinball, because it's part of the DNA of gaming at this time, is playing video pinball. And electronic pinball in Midnight Magic form on Atari 2600 is so worth $6. It's so good. It's such a good basic table. It's so much fun. It sounds great. It's got really good visual effects, really good. It just feels good to play. I love Midnight Magic. $6. Buy it.
Yeah, I mean, I had to cut video pinball off my list. I do not have a pinball game. I wanted to. And I think, like, I'm looking up the price again real quick. I think if I had used your app, I might have been able to get it in there, because it's only $4. So I probably could have squeezed it in there. So I'm going to cheat and say, using your app, I would have been able to get video pinball in there. But yeah, Midnight Magic, I do not have the experience with it that you do. For me, it would have been video pinball. But you're right. Fair. Like, you get a pinball get like ubiquitous at this time.
It's an important thing to have. And the thing with Midnight Magic in particular that I love so much, video pinball.
Did I say Midnight Madness? I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm drunk.
Video pinball does that thing where it fills the whole screen.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look like a pinball table.
It does not.
It's got this really wide play field. The flippers don't move like flippers. The flippers kind of bend. Now and I'm not trying to disparage video pinball. I'm just absolutely not. The thing is that Midnight Magic took the approach of being this like thin vertical slice. So it looks and feels more like an actual pinball table. This little spinner thingy in the middle has really, really great animation. I love the ball physics. The ball physics are really cool. It's got 2 sets of flippers, and they animate like flippers flipping, not like a white thing that's kind of bending and flopping, like in video pinball. I just think Midnight Magic hits all the right chords. It's one of my favorite video pinball things on any platform. Honestly, I just love going back to this game. It's a basic table, but it's a damn fun one.
Yeah, I feel like it's one that I should give some more time to. Because you're right, it is much more authentic. See, I feel like this is something I should just be able to download on my iPhone.
How many more you got?
Let me see here. So I have got 1, 2, 3. I think just the last 4. I have 4 left.
I only have 3 left.
Huh? How did that happen? All right. Well, next up,
I have most of yours on here.
Yeah, that's true. All right, next on my list, another $7 game, but man, I felt like it had to be on there. That would be Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, I thought about this one.
I really like this one. It's just fighting AT-ATs, but it controls really well. It's really fun to play. If you can survive for 2 minutes, the Star Wars theme kicks in, which is awesome. You as you take damage, you can land and repair your ship twice per fight. It takes something like 48 shots or something like that to kill, like 48, 50 shots, some ridiculous number that you have to hit these AT-ATs. But it's just really fun zipping back and forth. Kind of has that Defender feel, zipping back and forth across the screen. Certainly not the level of horizontal travel that you get in something like Defender, but it has that zip to it. And also thought it was really cool. Like every now and again, like a little section of the AT-AT would blink, and if you hit that, you could get a 1-hit kill, which is super fucking hard. Like I was never able to do it, but I always really wanted to. But man, like me and my buddy just used to sit there and play this game over and over and over again. That music would kick in and you just get in this zone, weaving in and out, like, again, imagining weaving in and out of the fucking AT-AT's legs. Oh my God. Loved it. I think it is well worth the $7.
This is a solid pick. It came down to like, do you pick this or do you pick Defender? And I just think Defender's a more fun game.
Sure.
But yeah, nothing but respect on that particular one.
Oh shit, I missed R. Damn it.
R, interesting. I don't have any R games.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I am still in the letter M, and this is another arcade conversion that is very distinctly Atari 2600. And I would heartily recommend spending $5 on the Missile Command for 2600. Another really memorable piece of box art. It's an extraordinarily common game, not hard to find in the least, and it plays really well, all things considered. This is a trackball arcade game, so playing it on the 2600 with the joystick is a very intrinsically different feel.
Very.
And also it only has the one button, so you're not choosing between these 3 different cannons. So it's just a totally different experience. It's similar, but it's completely unique. And I loved this game as a kid. I think it still holds up today. It's very easy to play. Like I was just playing it with my kids a couple of weeks ago because it's a concept that you can pick up and wrap your head around. And it has that very unique 2600 sound. Like it sounds very memorable. It's a fantastic port, I think, of Missile Command. So does it stack up to the arcade original? That's kind of a weird question to answer because it does play so very differently. But I think it's translated remarkably well to 2600, and I love it.
All right. Yeah, did not even make contention on my list. I respect Missile Command. It is a fun game. I like Missile Command. I'm not a huge Missile Command guy. It's just never really been my thing. And I don't really have a good reason why. It's really good. I just don't love it. What I did love, though, and again, I feel like this is another one of those overlooked ones, which is, again, it's an $11 game, but that would be River Raid.
Yes, only didn't make my list because of the price.
Oh, it is pricey, but
phenomenal game.
What a good shooter. Like, what a good shooter on the 2600, man. It was just so much better than like other shooters, right? Because Star Wars is a shooter, but it's a very, very different thing. Like, there was a lot more horizontal shooters, Defender style stuff on the 2600, but River Raid is a fucking shmup. It's a very, very early shmup. And going through and playing through, flying through the jungle or the bayou or wherever the fuck you were, over a river, and
hence the name.
Hence the name. What always fucking tripped me up about it, because you have a tendency when you play shooters to just wail on the fire button, right? Just firing. I gotta kill everything that's coming at me. But in River Raid, you're constantly running out of fuel, and you have to fly over these fuel barges, which are very clearly labeled as fuel barges, to refuel your plane and continue on with the level. And if you're just mashing the button going through, you will blow those fuel barges up. So it added this layer of like being much more selective with your shots as you were going through. I just thought it was really, really fucking cool. And it's again, another just really intense game. Like, it gets to a point, maybe not Berserk intense, but there are some intense moments that are really, really amplified by how well this game controls. Like, this is one of the best feeling shooters that you can play, man. It is just awesome. Love this game.
100% agree. This is designed by Carol Shaw, in, I think,
it's made by a girl. Ew.
Never mind. Take it off the list.
Gross. It's off my list. I wish I would have no.
This is, again, it's Activision just knocking it out of the park on a very unique type of game, and I really wanted to put this one on my list. I really, really did, but I couldn't justify the price for the other things that I would lose.
Sure.
So,
is this? I don't know this. Is this like an overlooked game?
No,
Atari, because I don't ever hear it mentioned all that much. I don't talk to a lot of people about Atari games, so that might be part of it as well. I think River Raid
is very, very, very well loved.
Okay.
I believe there's I'm thinking of Atlantis. I think there's also a River Raid 2 that's like super rare or something like that. But either way,
Atlantis is
pick.
a cool one too. Yeah.
I
like River Raid. I was very, very lucky. My buddy Nick had good taste in games, or his dad did. One of the two. Not sure which it was.
All right, my next pick is Warlords for $3.
Yep. I had that one at $2.
Interesting. Well, either way, Warlords is worth your $2 or $3. It's
100%.
Get yourself two sets of paddles, and you can play 4-player Warlords. And this game's awesome. It's four-way competitive breakout. It's wonderful.
It's phenomenal. I will go on record and say that there has never been, and probably never will be, a more fun four-player game.
I mean, between Combat and Warlords, you're really just nailing it on local multiplayer experiences.
Dude, what's so great about this game is the instant formation and dissolution of alliances to take out the other people in the game. It is breathtaking to be a part of, right? Because the person's in the lead, so the other three players, without saying a word, everybody starts ganging up on him, and then all of a sudden you start getting in the lead, and you're like, fuck, they're coming for me. I know they are, these sons of bitches. And it's, oh my God, it's just so fun.
That's the thing. They will inevitably come for you.
They will. They have to.
Mm-hmm.
They have to. What I also thought was cool was your just the way that you controlled the ball, right? Because you're not just wildly flinging it around. Mm-hmm. You kind of like catch it almost, right? And kind of redirect and Oh, it's good stuff, man.
It is. Yep.
And again, not something you can do without the paddle controller.
Yeah, it is a unique, very uniquely 2600 thing. So, yeah, big thumbs up.
All right. Well, I'm now down to my last game.
As am I. Let's see if we have the same one.
I mean, is your last one Yar's Revenge? Because that's mine.
Yeah, it's mine. Yep.
Yeah. $6. What'd you have it for? 5?
I had it at 5. Yeah.
All right. There's nothing else like Yar's Revenge, man.
No, man. It is.
There never has been
experience.
It's a weird ass game. It is a high concept.
It's bizarre.
It is fucking high concept, man. Like you can see the DNA of the creativity and the challenge that's in Yar's Revenge in E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Like it is an outside the box kind of game made by the same dude. Just a fucking weird ass game. Like you're shooting a thing on the right, you're on the left hand side, but you're going up and down. You can go through the screen. There's a weird safe zone in the middle as you're running from missiles that the quotile is launching at you as you're charging up your Zorlon cannon. I was just ridiculous. And it's
nuts. And you're this big old bug creature. And it's got amazing cover art. It's
so good.
This is yet another quintessential Atari game. So mine added up to exactly $100.
I was at 99. Nice. $99. But like I said, with using some of your prices, I could get video pinball on there as well.
And that's pretty solid. So we're gonna publish these. I'm just gonna get these together, and I think we're gonna keep a running list of these somewhere so that you can access them if you do want to know what our Stone Age starter kits are, without re-listening to this entire episode. I'll also throw
you should re-listen to the entire episode
every chance you get. The only ones in my backup list on my like next round to get that I didn't mention, like obviously Pitfall 2, it's $20, but damn, is that game amazing.
Yeah.
I mentioned I didn't mention Kung Fu Master.
Mm-hmm.
This is another one of those like technological achievements. Like this game's better on NES, no question. The fact that this game functions on 2600 at all is amazing. The fact that it's this good is out of this world. You just have to play Kung Fu Master. Commando is another one that's like shockingly
Commando's
good.
Really
I
good.
think.
Yeah.
And then just for the sheer comedy of it, for $4, Human Cannonball. It's a pretty darn decent game. And I would also be remiss if I didn't mention Miniature Golf. It's a game that a lot of people hate, but I feel like Ferg talks about it a lot, and I would really like to spend the time to learn it properly, because I feel like it makes sense. Once you get it, then it kind of clicks. The game's got a weird cult following, and I think it's because once you get past the sheer absurdity of it, it does kind of work. But none of those games hit my list. So my list, I'll read it again, top to bottom, and then you can read yours. All right.
All right.
Adventure, Asteroids, Berserk, California Games, Circus Atari, Combat, Defender, Grand Prix, Haunted House, Junior Pac-Man, Jungle Hunt, Kaboom, Megamania, Midnight Magic, Missile Command, Pitfall, Warlords, and Yar's Revenge. Dan, what's your list?
All right. Not in alphabetical order. Pitfall, Combat, Berserk, Moon Patrol, Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, Frogger, River Raid, Warlords, Adventure, Asteroids, Battlezone, Frogs and Flies, Kaboom, Space Invaders, Yar's Revenge, and Mousetrap.
Solid picks. And there you have it. That's our first Stone Age Starter Kit episode. And you know what? I bet all the rest of them aren't going to be nearly this long, because every other platform, the games aren't this cheap.
Nope. We'll get to the NES and be like, all right, so you should get Shatterhand and Metroid. Good night, folks. Your fucking NES games are stupid expensive. I am going to say, before you go into your ending spiel, Kris, I know we're kind of running long in the tooth here, but I am going to require that after Ferg has finished listening to this episode, that he provides us with his list that we will update the listeners with, because I'm really curious as to what Ferg's list would be for $100 on the Atari.
I am 100% with you. Ferg, we would love for you to do that. I would love to hear what you have to say about this. And honestly, anybody else. If anybody else, any of our other listeners want to come with their list for $100, what are the games that add up to $100 that you would think are the first set of games you get with the new Atari 2600? I would love to hear it. What was the next one?
So next we are doing next month, first week of the month, we will be doing the NES.
Right. Next up is May, and we're going to do the NES. So let's hear your Atari 2600 ones, and while you're at it, get to work on your NES ones, because we're going to want to hear those too, but not until May when we record our episode.
That's right.
All right. So that's going to be it. That's our show. Join us next week when apparently we're going to be discussing the Monster Hunter movie.
That's right. Chris and I are going to fucking Siskel and Ebert, fucking Waldorf and Statler this son of a bitch.
I've played, here's my experience playing Monster Hunter. I tried the Monster Hunter Try demo for Wii for about 5 minutes and noped the fuck out. So
I have not seriously played a Monster Hunter game in a very long time, but I do have a very thorough knowledge of the pad cards that are in the Monster Hunter collab. That will be over by the time this episode comes out, but that is running right now.
Fantastic. We're on most social media platforms, and if you want to get in touch with us, we aren't very difficult to find. All it takes is a quick look at our show notes, and you'll see links to our social media accounts, as well as all manner of other fun stuff, like a link to our namesake, StoneAgeGamer.com, the Geekade Patreon, which helps keep this show running week after week, and more useful links than you can shake a joystick at. This show's theme song, Squared Roots, was written by Banjo Guy Ali. You can learn all about his wonderful music and more by following the link to his YouTube channel, also in the show notes. And finally, as always, we'd also like to thank our intrepid editor, Evan, for making this show listenable for all you folks, and we'd like to thank all you folks for listening in the first place. That's it, everybody. On behalf of Dan and myself, keep playing games.